Okay, so maybe we should get started, but oh yeah, okay. I was just checking to make sure that the meeting is being recorded. Let me warn everybody that you are being recorded. Depending on how interesting this is, I'll decide what to do with the recordings, but among other things, I'll post them so other people could watch this show after we're done. Okay, so let me set the stage a little bit. The idea that actually I think Cecil and Bill suggested almost a year ago when we were still meeting as real people was that do a discussion group about video, since most of our cameras now and certainly all of our phones can take video, and we're all photographers, and people must have noticed that and started using that facility. So we decided to put together this program, and 4 of them are going to talk about different aspects of taking video, and I'll give you a really brief overview of what they're going to talk about. We'll start with Jerry, who's been doing video for a long time, probably before cell phones even were invented, if you can remember back then. He'll talk about some of the different cameras that he's used up till now, and a little bit about how he does editing. Then we'll go to Bill, who also has been using other video devices until the advent of, or before the advent of phone videography. The big difference between now and 20 years ago, 10 years ago, is that you can actually edit videos without having a giant studio and assistants and all that sort of stuff, since things are digital now. So Cecil will give us an overview of his impression of the 4 main Adobe editing products that can handle video, just so we get a sense of what can and can't be done now with video. And certainly it's vastly more than most of us would have ever even thought about attempting even 10 years ago. And then Terry is going to focus mostly on iPhone photography. He's going to show us a gimbal, how that helps photography, but then he's going to talk about a couple of interesting things. One is he uses a different program to do video on his iPhone, not the standard Apple, phone app. There are a bunch of others. I've used a couple of other ones, but the one he uses sounds particularly good for video. And he also is going to talk a little bit about the video editing program that he uses, which is free, which is maybe its most exciting capability, but it also sounds like a very capable program. So anyway, so let's get started with Jerry. I'll let you take over, share your screen, and do whatever you want. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Well, welcome again, everybody.
One other thing, I'm going to mute everybody now, just so we don't step on Jerry's talk or anybody else's. If you want to ask a question, you can either send a chat, and Mary will be monitoring that and will interrupt us to let us do that. You can wave your hand, that might work. If there are a few of us that Mary might notice that too, but the preferred way is to do a chat. So, okay, let me mute everybody. And
Mary, while I'm doing my presentation, if somebody has a question regarding that particular part of the presentation, just speak up a little bit and let me know, and I'll try to answer that while we're live yet. So, okay. Okay, what I'm going to do, everybody, is I put together a presentation of what I've done, and to kind of give you an idea, I'm not a total expert on video recording, but first time we did it, we had a Super 8 camera, and this is back when our kids were born. And to give you an idea of when that was, when they was little toddlers, our oldest son turned 50 this year. So it's been a few years ago. So I experimented for a while with video, then film cameras and various other things. And with the advent of digital, it's just been amazingly different. So let me go to my presentation and I'll highlight some things here. I put together, this is a PowerPoint play here. And I just want to talk about some things to consider when you're doing video. Because again, I say I'm not the total expert on it. There's people that have a lot more information than I do. But I just wanted to give you some ideas of what to look at. You got to consider, first of all, what are you recording? Okay. Is it a travel video, instructional, YouTube, documentary, interview, event, family gatherings, weddings, et cetera, et cetera? There's so many different things you can do. And each may take a little bit different aspect of how you actually copy that. I've taken in travel, and I do mostly travel type, but I've used the GoPros, actually mounted to my cars. And my wife, by the iPhone app, would control the GoPro and we would capture certain segments of our travels. So that's an interesting thing to do. You don't get the audio on it, but you do get, you get wind noise, but other than that, it's good. Instructional events, whatever. One of the things that I do is that, and I'll go into it a little bit later here and you'll see a short sample of one of the videos. For one of the local wineries here, Brigman Brothers, we got a real close working relationship. And they want to do instructional videos and informational videos on their activities. So I will video that, then post it on Facebook or internet for that. So there's many different types of video cameras, cell phones, DSLR, mirrorless, GoPro, drone, et cetera, et cetera. You can go almost anything. There's a lot of dedicated video cameras. There's also multi-purpose cameras, such as your cell phone or DSLRs. So the first thing you want to do is, if you're not familiar into it, consult your manual on how your manual operates. We'll tell you how to set up for video. So you want to consider that. And you look at what video format. There's multiple formats out there. So you want to make sure it's the one you need. One of the things too is that unless there's a dedicated video camera, is focus tracking. Now, focus tracking allows you, when you lock in on your subject, as it moves around, such as somebody's talking to you, they walk towards you, they walk away from you, whatever, it will continuously keep focus on that particular subject. And that's extremely important. Do that. ISO, you want to be at auto, so that if you pan or change where your settings at, or the lights changes, that the camera will still have a quality picture. There's time lapse. A lot of cameras have built-in. The camera I have has built-in time lapse, and I can set that format on that. A number of club members have used time lapse over the period of time. And also lighting. You got to make sure there's enough light on your subject, the dark, and you don't get into shadows and various things. Now, one aspect a lot of people forget about is audio. So a lot of things, if you're doing an interview or recording a live event, or even taking a picture, a video of a outside scene of a river, it's nice to have the noise of the water running over the rocks being recorded. And in a lot of places you have background noise. So I'm going to go a little bit into audio. And let me explain here a little bit. In the audio recording, what I found out is that, and I know you can't see it right now, on my camera, I can easily record video. It also records the audio, but the microphone on it is a omnidirectional microphone. So any sound close or near around the camera, it will capture that. I, as an operator, if I have to clear my throat or make some sort of a sound, that is the greatest sound you'll hear on the thing, because it's the closest to the microphone. So, and I'll show you in a little bit here. I have a wireless microphone I use now for my subject to be mounted on them, and I can record audio up to 200 feet away and very clear and precise. I also wear headphones so I can hear exactly what the camera is capturing. So extremely important. And the other thing you want to do is make sure you have a memory card that is large enough, because video takes up a lot of space, and also fast enough so it can properly download as you're recording. You don't want to get it to the point that the buffer is overloaded. Buffer is a temporary storage spot to compensate for various times. And if that gets overloaded, you will start to lose your video on that. Tripod or handheld. So if we're using a DSLR, there's a lot of dedicated cameras, whatever. Handheld is nice, it's convenient, but also it has its own problems. It's trying to pan, move, or whatever, to be steady and precise, so you don't get jerky motions in that. And I'll show a video I did where you can see where I was walking towards the subject, and it makes a difference. If you can do tripod mount, that's great, but depends on where you're at. There are some devices too, and we'll talk about that. So, you know, the handheld is where the subject is moving and the camera needs to move or follow. Recommend a stabilizer, and I'll show a few of those. With a tripod, where all recording can be made basically from one location. If you have a proper way to do it is if you have to move pan the camera or whatever, there's a mount that's called a liquid mount, which has a liquid surface inside, so it's very smooth as you pan with that. Landscape presentations, sporting events. A lot of times those can be done from a single location, but you want to pan to be able to move the camera. Panning is slow and steady. I've seen too many times, and I've done it myself, where you're trying to pan a subject, and in the panning process, what looks good to you is extremely too fast to capture and for the audience to enjoy. So you're sitting there and assume it goes by real quick. So you got to purposely slow down and just do a proper pan. Don't move quickly, up, down, sideways, or whatever way it is. Some hints. Handheld, we talked about that a little bit. Consider a stabilizer. And this will be in the next slides. I'll show you some options that are out there. Do you have to move with the subject? Zooming with the lens, not really recommended unless you have the proper cinema type lenses to zoom with. I do it. It can be done. You have to practice, and really you need special equipment because it's always going to be jerky. You're going to be moving the camera around, and it's not easy. I actually put, you can see here on my camera here, I put a zip strap tie around on my lens, so I can just quickly grab that and move it to zoom.
Hold the camera in front of you.
Okay, well, okay. So if you can see the lens extend, and it's a zip tie here. I know we're small images on the side, and I can show it a little bit later here, but it allows me to quickly put my thumb on it and move it, but it's still jerky. It's not as smooth as I like. Panning, slow and steady, as I said. So when you're using your camera, you don't want to go zoom, like visually, you can see it because you have a wide view, wide vision. The camera is very narrow. So you got to be very precise and and the nice thing is the live view in the back of the camera. Sporting events, landscape, there's a lot of times you would want to zoom. Now there's a lot of products on the market. This is a handheld stabilizer. The camera goes into the back here. You have a handle that holds on it. Your camera actually is above the red knob there. If you can see that red knob is above that. You have a handheld, so it's all mechanically balanced. You have weights in the back and whatever, so it's pretty stabilized. So you can move and it'll stabilize itself. It's clumsy, difficult, but it does work. You also have automated stabilizers. These are all controlled by, I'm sorry, cell phone devices. And Terry's going to show a small one that's designed just for the cell phones. These are designed for DSLRs, but they're limited on the size of your camera. You really can't do that mechanical zoom where the lens extends out because then it throws it off balance. The one on your right shows a faded image of a camera. The little device in the front is a mechanical device that connects to a precise lens for zooming, and that rotates the lens so it can zoom in and out from a control button. That's fairly expensive and not necessarily the easiest to do, but these things are very good. You can, with the one, I tried the one on the left, and it didn't balance well with my camera, so I had to send it back. But with that one, I could also put a mount of my cell phone on the camera, let the cell phone, I could get in front of it, the cell phone would see me, I could identify that, and as I moved around, the camera would follow me. So it's great, it's a great product, a great device, it works well, but they're a little bit expensive. You're talking about $500–600 for a device. Drones, we all know about drones. There's various sizes and types, whatever. Great for videos. I've done a lot of videos with the drones. There's no audio, obviously, but it really gives you a good bird's eye view of what's going on. And you're seeing more and more of those out there now. This is the liquid mount. So it mounts on a regular tripod, just like your standard ball mount, except it has a liquid function in there on the surfaces. So they smoothly transition back and forth without any jerkiness, hesitation. After your recording is complete, you have to edit it and make it into movie. And within this, you can add background sounds and videos. Now, the interesting thing about good editing software, you're not editing just a movie, you can put stills into it. You can add audio into it. There's a lot of different things you can do into it and put a lot of motion. So, and I'll talk a little bit on that. I use iMovie from Apple product. Apple includes that with the product when you buy it, so it's a no-cost option, and they keep it updated. So some of the things to think about when you're video editing is your formats. If you have multiple files on there, different video files or still files, whatever, you want transitions between each segment so that it's easy, smooth. It just doesn't boom, it's right there. It fades through black or whatever you put into it. Within the movie editing, you cut and splice. You can very, very well do that. You can add audio. You can edit your audio. You can put in soundtracks in the back. Excuse me, my throat's going out. But one of the cautions with soundtracks is that it's easy to capture your favorite music for your favorite artist and close that onto it. If you're going to post your video onto a internet format such as Facebook, for example, they will edit that. They will listen to that soundtracks. And if it's a recorded artist and you do not have permission to use that, they will not post it. But there are a lot of free background musics out there available. You just got to search for them on the web, and you can add that. Because most of the time you just want the musical part. You do not want the audio part. So, and anytime you do a video, you need a little bit of background sound to help put the package together. So with you can do the audio, you can do titles, you can describe things, you can put various things in it, and I'll show you some of that. You can adjust the video and audio. There's a lot of adjustments you can make. Now I'm going to do, this is a short presentation of a movie I've done. And one of the things I want you to, where's it at here? Come on, there it comes. Let me stop it here a second. Okay, this starts off, this is a still picture. The one I had taken, I have on file of the Brigman Brothers Winery. I can put labels across the top or any place in here I want to, titles. And I have different parts. You can even do a ticker type where to scroll across the bottom. There's a lot of options. And with the still pictures, you can go in and they give you the option to either have it fixed still, or you can do a start. So you can almost zoom in or out on a fixed picture. So it gives you motion, as you can see here. Now, this is in the vines. They're doing what they call debudding, and they're getting ready for the growing season. Now, this is Robert, one of the owners and winemakers at the winery. He's wearing a wireless microphone. I don't know if you can see it here or not. But this is a transmitter and a receiver that will fit on top of my camera and plug into the audio input. And at the same time, I will use headphones so I can hear precisely what he's doing. The great thing is he's going to talk about some background sounds, tractors and various things like that. There's a road right there. You'll hear traffic on it. But with the wireless microphone, you do not hear that. It mutes that out. Without that, you would hear all that sound over him trying to talk at a distance. So it gives me a lot of freedom by doing that. And I'm going to let you listen here a little bit. Now, one of the things as I'm talking to him, I'm moving closer to him and trying to zoom a little bit. So you can see some jerkiness because I'm doing handheld. And that's always a difficulty.
Hey, Jerry, welcome to our weekly video at Bregman Brothers. You can hear the tractor in the background. You can see the workers working at it. And right now, we're doing one of the most important tasks that you can do in the vineyard.
Yeah, I'm not going to go through the whole thing here, but just want to kind of give you a sample of what you can do. So it's a great tool, great thing. You can do it for your travel videos or anything instructional, whatever. So this video is a very, very good access, a very good tool to have. The photography is excellent. This is photography. And it's just a multitude of images put together in a moving scenario. But it gives you a chance to add audio into it, do some special effects and whatever. So beyond here, I was going to go and show you a little bit on how I edited it. And where my keep losing my mouse here. Okay, where's my editing? Okay, this is the editing software. And this, as soon as that's still available, can you view that, Jay?
No.
No.
No? Okay, I gotta go screen save again. You got it there?
Here you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is Apple's version of the video software, video editing software called iMovie. It comes with the computer when you buy it. It's included. There's no additional cost. They constantly give you upgrades, updates on it. So it's a very, very precise tool. So what I have here in the, if you can see my mouse here, what I'm looking at here, these are audio tracks I can collect and pull. I can listen to them. And it's not playing, that's right. There you go. That's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I can bring in the videos that I want to include into the movie. So I got 3 different movie tracks. I got some various stills here, which I can bring in. I can drop them any place within the movie, down below. Can you, everybody see my mouse? Whatever, it's hard to see what you guys are seeing.
Yeah.
But the little purple boxes or blue boxes above here, those are all titles that I've placed in here at various points. In between each one, there's a transitional type thing. So I go across one, you see it fades to black, then it comes back in. I have other ones that spin in, spin out. There's a load of different transitionals you can use. At the very bottom is the audio. Now in this particular case, I just recorded directly the audio he had put there, but I can adjust the amplitude of it, how loud it is or how quiet. Within a still, I have the option of, and this is the Ken Burns version. So it allows me to have a start and stop so I can actually look like I'm focusing in closer or moving away from it, zooming in or out. So a lot of different options. Then I can save this in different formats. I save it normally just as an MP4 file and keep it in my directory. Then I can easily post it on Facebook for the winery or wherever they like to have it, or give it for their own use for their website. So that's kind of a real basic. There's so much you can do in here. I mean, you can easily cut and splice any of the audio or video. And if you have a error that happens during the recording, somebody stumbles or whatever, you can cut that out. You put a little transition in between so it makes a smooth cut over. But there's a lot you can do. So it's a great tool and great fun. I'm gonna close this out. I think, yeah. I don't know where it's going here. Taking a little bit. And back with you guys. So at any time, feel free to contact me or let me know if you have any questions on what I do. That maybe good, bad, or indifferent, who knows? But I do quite a bit of it and it's fun. It's interesting to see what you come up with. Yeah. Am I back?
Yes, yeah, you're back.
Okay. Okay. So no questions right now. Feel free to ask me anytime, but we'll go on to the next one. Is it?
Jay, you're muted.
Jay, you're muted.
Okay.
Your lips.
All right. So I was trying to thank Jerry and tell him what a good job he did, but let's go on to Bill, and you'll talk about some of the cameras you've used, Bill. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jerry.
Hey, good morning.
Thanks, Sherry.
Mhm. Welcome.
Well, most of you know me. I've been in the camera club for about 10 years or more. Been taking photographs my whole life. I had an aunt who was a professional photographer, and she lived with us and had a dark room in the basement. So starting about 6 years old, she gave me a camera and took a lot of black and white photos and processed them. But as far as video goes, I'm certainly not an expert. I'm still struggling with a lot of aspects of it. I'd like to share with you today my experience with 3 cameras that I have used, and would like to kind of tell you the pros and cons of them, what they can and can't do. And my primary use of video is for travel photography. There's a group of people here, mostly from Leelanau County, that we've traveled with for the last 10 years. And we've traveled in Europe and Eastern Europe, and my wife and I have traveled quite a bit in Canada and the US. So my video photography is almost exclusively travel. And then what I do is when we get back from our trips, I put together a show like Jerry was just talking about, with stills and videos and maps and music and all that sort of thing, and then create either a DVD or a Blu-ray and give one to everybody we traveled with. And that's really been fun for me to create those, and the response from the other people has been wonderful. My videos, because they're travel videos, do a lot of landscapes, cityscapes, a lot of people and food and events like festivals, that sort of thing. So what I've discovered is that I need a camera that's really good with zoom and with autofocus. Those are the 2 primary elements that I look for to do what I need to do with videos. And an example of that would be that
I like to do zoom shots, like if we're in a city square and there's it has a featured sculpture or something like that, what I'll do is start out focusing on the sculpture and then pan out to a larger view of the whole square. Or on a more intimate level, I might show in a restaurant, starting with a bottle of wine and then expand out to show the whole group toasting at the table. Or maybe even expand to showing the whole restaurant if it's a particularly interesting place. So that zooming and autofocus are really important in those kinds of situations. I have 3 cameras that I've used and still use. A Nikon D750 SLR, and this has a lens, a 24 to 120 lens that is primarily what I use in my travels. Almost never use a tripod. I find that moving as quickly as we do in a lot of situations, there's just not time for me to set up and use a tripod. So almost everything is handheld, although there are exceptions to that if I'm doing some nighttime shooting. The other camera I'd like to show you is a Sony. It's a dedicated video camera. It's about 6 years old, and I'll go over the pros and cons of that. And then the third one is I have an iPhone 11 Pro, and I haven't had this that long, so I don't have a lot of experience with that. So I know I can learn a lot from you guys on how to use it and what the features are there. So I'll start out talking about my Nikon D750 with the Nikkor 24 to 120 lens. And I'm going to refer to some of the notes. If you see me looking down, I want to remember what I want to say about it. But one of the advantages of using a camera like this is that you can use a wide range of lenses and filters. I almost always use this one lens, although there are exceptions to that. This camera records in HD. There's a large selection of frame rates. I use mostly 24 frames per second. Although if I know I'm going to do something to speed up the motion in my show, I'll use a 60 frame rate. This camera has really good battery life. It lasts me most of the time. One battery will take me through the day, but I always have extra batteries with me. It has a good built-in microphone, but as Jerry said, you're a lot better off if you have a remote microphone, which I do not at this point, but this has served me well so far. It has pretty good low light capability, which is especially needed for indoors or for twilight situations.
What's the f-stop range on that, Bill? F-stop on that lens?
Oh, it's a 4.
Constant 4, or is it change over?
Yeah.
The constant.
Yeah. I'll show you it has a, I hope you can see this. It has a pretty bright screen, which tilts, which is nice for if you want to reach up high for something or down low. This camera, and I'm not sure if this is typical of all DSLRs, but you can only use the screen on the live view screen. You can't view through the viewfinder. which on a bright sunny day, sometimes that can make it a little bit difficult. As Jerry talked a little bit about zooming with a camera like this, it's the difficulty that I've experienced, and I'm sure that he has too, is what he talked about when you're trying to hold the camera steady and then move the lens to zoom. And I've just found out that that doesn't work for me. I can't hold it steady. So I've almost completely stopped using this camera for zoom. What I use it for, and it does a great job for when you can maintain the distance between the subject and the camera. That's the primary time that I use this. It's really good for that, but not for zooming in and out. And I'll show you some examples of that in a little test I did here in my studio. I have gotten on YouTube and looked at other DSLRs, and there's a lot of them that do a lot better job than my camera. I know Canon, I think, does a better job with videos, and even some other Nikons, but this particular one that I have just doesn't do a great job in autofocus. That's one of the big drawbacks with the Nikon, is it really struggles with autofocus when I'm trying to go from a close subject to a farther away subject. The next one I'd like to show you is this is a Sony. The model is HDR P760V. It's about 5 years old, and there's lots of things I like about this camera. This is my primary, at least up till now, before I've gotten used to the iPhone. This has been my primary video camera for lots of reasons. It's lightweight, it's comfortable to hold, it's got a padded strap on the back, which really makes it nice because you can move your fingers around and it just stays right where you want it all the time. The controls are all fingertip controls right where you want them. It's got a Zeiss lens, which is an excellent lens, and it actually has a floating lens. You wouldn't be able to see this in this light, but the lens floats around in liquid. And so if you do a jerky motion, or you're walking or whatever, it actually smooths it out and doesn't show all that motion or anything abrupt. So that's been a great feature with this camera. It's got a nice screen that the camera, I set it up so the camera starts when I open this, and it's got a really bright screen. It swivels all kinds of directions and really does a great job there. It's a touch screen, so you can get to the menu. You can play back what you've recorded. Lots of features like that. But one of the reasons that I bought this camera is that it's one of the few that I could find that also has a viewfinder. So you pull this little viewfinder out, it starts the camera. This is great on a really bright sunny day. It does a great job, and it also tilts up so that you can look down, if you want to get a really low shot or something, so you can swivel it around. To shut the camera off again, you just push that back in. The zoom on this camera is really nice because it's a fingertip control right below this finger, and it's a sliding control. So if I want to zoom in or out, I just push it in one direction or the other, and the distance that I push the little control, the faster it controls the speed, zoom in and out. So if I want to zoom in quickly, I push that all the way. If I want to go very slow, I push it slightly. And it really is quite an easy zoom, and it makes it really smooth. This has an excellent autofocus. It almost instantly focuses on anything I point it to. So if I point it down to my desk or across the room, it automatically focuses and does that very seamlessly and very quickly. This camera does accept filters. It has a nice lens hood, but I had to adapt it a little bit myself to accept filters and also use the lens hood. It shoots still shots. This camera will shoot a 24 megapixel still. And the other nice feature is that there's a button right next to the zoom button that even while I'm taking a video, I can click that still shot button, and in the middle of the video, it'll take a still shot and not affect the video at all. So that's a really nice feature too. I don't use that very often, but every once in a while I do. It captures in high definition. It comes with a wireless remote control, which is really nice for some situations. It's got a really good Dolby digital microphone right here on the top front of the camera. But again, a remote microphone might be better in some applications. It's got good battery life. This battery, this one in here now on the back, it's right on the back here, and it'll take about 2 to 2.5 hours of video, which is much more than I would typically take in a day. I take another battery with me in case I don't have enough battery life. This camera has 90 gigabytes of internal storage. That's good for 38 hours of video. So you could almost just retain all the video in this camera throughout the whole vacation. But I don't do that. I download every night, but it also has a memory card slot. So that's a nice feature. So right now, this camera best fits my needs for the two features I find most important, which are zoom and autofocus.
Bill,
Yes,
Helen had a question. What is the zoom range on the camera?
gosh, I'm not sure I can tell you that. I would have to look that up. I didn't write it down, and I'm not sure. But it's quite a wide range. I've found that it serves anything that I need.
Okay,
Sorry, I can't really answer that. My third camera is, as I said, a iPhone 11 Pro, which I just got a couple months ago. So I don't have a lot of experience with it, but some of the features that I can tell you about is that it has a really large bright screen that it's a touch screen, and but even I've noticed even in bright sun sometimes it becomes difficult to see the screen well enough to take a video. It's very lightweight, and that's one of the things I really like about it, since I do a lot of handheld shooting. For instance, the DSLR with that big lens, if you're taking a video and hand holding it and it's fairly long, you can get pretty tired, and that affects the video. With this, I've found that I can very easily hold this and move it around, and I don't get tired. It has a very fast and accurate autofocus, captures in HD, but it also captures in 4K. So there's that option. It has amazing battery life. The thing that's impressed me about more than anything is how long the battery life is. With I don't think I've ever run out of juice on this thing for the whole day. Zooming in and out, one of the things I mentioned is important to me, is difficult because there's a dial on the screen and you have to move it with your finger to zoom in and out. And that becomes a little awkward, but it works. But using a gimbal is really the way to do it. And Terry will talk about that a little bit later. But I think that's about it for talking about the three cameras. What I'd like to show you now is I did a little video where I tested these three cameras for the two things I find the most important, zoom and autofocus. And what I'd like to do is show you that video, and then while that's playing, I can talk to you a little bit more about that. So let me see if I can get to share screen here. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm doing, I'm comparing these three cameras for zoom and autofocus. I've set up a little test here in my lower level. The first one I'm going to show you is the Nikon with no zoom. I'm just moving from this little Santa Claus to, I'm sorry, a little snowman to this Santa Claus. And you can see it's struggling to autofocus. Then I moved over to the opposite wall, which is about 10 feet away, and it struggled a little bit there to autofocus. But here is the same Nikon, same test, and attempting to use the zoom at the same time. See how it's taking some time to autofocus, and the zoom is kind of ragged, kind of like Jerry showed, that it's hard to zoom in and out with that camera. And zoom back in again. And this is the Sony doing the same thing. First with no zoom used, just moving from little snowman about 2 feet away to Santa Claus about 5 feet away, and you can see it just instantly autofocuses. And then moving over to the opposite wall, which is about 10 feet away, and the autofocus there is very seamless and really does a good job. Here's the same thing where I'm also using the zoom with the Sony. And you'll see that the zoom can be very smooth, and the focus is instant. You don't even notice any kind of refocusing. It just does it so quickly and automatically. Here's the iPhone. Again, no zoom the first time through, just panned across the room. Does an outstanding job of refocusing very seamlessly. You don't even notice that it's refocusing. And here's the iPhone using the zoom, which again is, moving my finger on the screen. worked pretty well for here when I'm zooming out. Zooming in was a little, and I think the little jump you saw there, I think was when it went from one lens to another. So here's some examples. This is a changing of the guard in Athens, Greece. This is using the Nikon, keeping the distance to the subject equal to same distance all the time, subject to camera. And that's where the Nikon really shines. I was just totally amazed at the precision of these guys. The audio, I'm picking up a bit of wind noise, so that's where maybe a remote microphone with a sock on it would help. Again, this is handheld. But this is a typical video of what I would incorporate into my show, along with stills and music. Something like this, I would play the music up to the beginning of the video and then go back to the background music after the video is over. This next video is in Croatia. It's some singers. Again, the Nikon D750 with the distance maintained. These are some street musicians in on the Isle of Mallorca in Spain. This is the Sony, and you'll see here that I start off by moving my point of view over to the left, and then I started zooming in to get a little bit more of a close-up of their faces. Focus is maintained really well. Interesting musical selection for where it is.
Sure, it's not New Orleans, right?
I started zooming in on, primarily on the clarinet player here. Zoomed back out again to include the guitar player, and then zoomed in on him. Then back out again at the end when they finished. So you can see how I use zoom. Here's a parade in Crete. It was an Independence Day, and this is also using the Sony. I start out with a zoomed image of these school children walking down the street, then zoomed out so you could see the whole scene and the village and the spectators. Some of the zooming in and out here is pretty subtle. You have to pay attention. Here I'm zooming out, so I keep them in the field of vision. Now I think here I zoom back in again a little bit to see some of the kids close up. Zoom back in again while they're farther away, and then kept that zoom to show more close-ups of the kids in the parade. Now here's a couple that I took with the iPhone. I was going under the Mackinac Bridge on a friend of mine's boat. I didn't show a whole lot of this video, but it did a great job. You can see the colors and the lighting, and everything is really nice. And then we're down in Florida and at a wildlife refuge, and I used the iPhone I was shooting directly down into the water on this little crab. I was really pleased with the quality of the video. Somebody reached down and moved this collection of shells and scared the crab away. And then the last one is my neighbor asked me if I would take a shot of his golf swing. And so I did this at 60 frames per second so that when I slowed it down, it would show his, I don't know anything about golf, but he thought it was pretty neat. So that's it for that presentation. I think just to sum it up, the DSLR does a great job as long as you keep the distance fixed, or if you can figure out a way to zoom it without jumping around, kind of like Jerry did. The Sony video cam is still my favorite all around, but I think the iPhone will probably become my favorite once I get a gimbal. There's surely a gimbal in my future, and Terry will show us a little bit more about that. So that's it for my presentation.
Good job.
Thank you, Bill.
So I just have a
My
question. I have a question, Bill, about the stills you take. So how would you compare those to the stills you take with your Nikon?
Oh, the Nikon it does a great job with still photography, and even in the preparation for starting a video, I'll kind of set the camera up just like I would with taking a still, and then switch to video. But yeah, it takes great video shots. I'm really pleased with that camera for that.
Yeah, thanks.
Just a comment before we move on. If you go to the upper right-hand corner of the screen, you can choose the speaker view so that when, and I think Mary Picard mentioned this, you know, she couldn't see Bill real well, but if you go up to the upper right-hand side and hit the speaker view while the speaker is talking, you'll be able to see him in the full frame. So.
Oh yeah, that would have been better.
Yeah, so that allowed me to see, and Mary to see much more of your specifics.
Good. Okay, so we'll go on to Cecil now.
Yeah.
Okay. Before I get started on my presentation, I'd just like to make a follow-up comment to an issue that Bill raised about autofocus with Nikon cameras. I see at least several people that shoot Nikon. So I don't know to what extent this applies to Canons or others, but Nikon cameras use two different methods of autofocus. And it's at least partly due to the fact that Nikon cameras use pentaprisms. So when you look through the viewfinder, you're actually looking at what you see through the lens. But it also shoots off another beam of light to the bottom to another sensor. And where I'm going with this, there are two different aspects of autofocus. One's called phase detection and the other is called contrast detection. And what I was describing about the pentaprism and taking off another beam of light, your electronics compare the phases of what's coming through the lens and uses that to autofocus. Anytime you're using live view, which you have to do for movies, you're using contrast detection. Now, two aspects. Contrast detection is more accurate than phase. Gesundheit. Contrast detection is more accurate. However, it's slower because what it has to do is look at the scene, determine the highest contrast area of the scene, and run it through the electronics, and then use that to focus. So that's why Nikon cameras, for sure, and I don't know to what extent the others are involved, anytime you're using live view, whether it's for still photography on a tripod or whatever, versus, and also video, that's why your autofocus is much slower than as if you're taking stills. So just throw that out. So my presentation's on Adobe's video editing software. Again, Jay summed things up very well to begin with, that several of us about a year ago started talking about the possibility of whether or not the club would be looking into video or whatever, since more and more cameras were now having video capability. So I decided to look into my camera. I shoot now with a Nikon D850, and it was the first camera I've had that had video capability. So I looked into that. I looked into the editing software that I already had, and I looked into the rest of Adobe's video editing software. I already had Lightroom and Photoshop, which do have some or more or less video editing capability. And I looked into Adobe's Premiere Elements and Premiere Pro. These are dedicated video editing programs. And what I'd like to do today is to share with you what I found, and what eventually at the end of my presentation, I'll tell you what I decided which one I chose for my very limited video work. I go back to what Jerry said, and I started out in video with the Super 8, actually Kodak Super 8 system. And I found out most of the video I was taking was of things that didn't move. And so it didn't turn out too satisfying. So I went to totally still photography. And it was only a year ago I went back and started to look into the possibilities of video. And even that, I only use it for very limited things like flowing water and waves and things where the camera can be mounted on a tripod and watch the scene change. So more about that later. So my evaluations are really based on two things. One's the ability to edit video clips, and clips are what you take for a certain period of time in your camera, and the ability to take those clips and make them into an end product, such as a movie, for whatever use you wanted to use the movies. One of the things I found, and you'll see this going through here for anybody that doesn't know much about video, is it has its own wide range of different nomenclature. There are terms that are almost amusing sometimes, like a dead cat or ducking, things like that are pretty funny, and I'll touch on a couple of those as I go through. What I propose to do is start off with a live demonstration of Adobe's Premiere Elements, just because it's the best way to kind of demonstrate the features I looked at. And then I'd follow it with screenshots and a description of the other three. That is Premiere Pro, Lightroom, and Photoshop, not necessarily in that order. So I am going to refer to my notes because I have quite a few that I think are relevant to the discussion. So please forgive me. I'd like to attempt to share my screen right now and see what happens. And that would be this. Oops. Okay. So this is Adobe's Premiere Elements.
Not seeing your shared
Can you see
screen.
it?
No, not sure.
Okay. Let's try to see what's going on here. Maybe I clicked the wrong thing. Well, I know what I didn't do. I didn't click on share screen. Ah, yes. Does that work?
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
So this is in almost all of the software I looked at, there's one main screen that has to do with most of the editing capabilities and almost all the video capabilities. So this is Premiere Elements. It's Adobe's consumer level video editing program, as opposed to Premiere Pro, which is the professional, the high end. It has most of the features of Premiere Pro, only they're a lot more simplified. This is dedicated to video. It is offered as a companion to Photoshop Elements, and also as a standalone program. It's not subscription based, which I thought is a plus if you don't want to invest in the Creative Cloud, the big Creative Cloud program. You can buy it either as a companion to Photoshop Elements, and sometimes you can see it on sale for the 2 units for $160 or something like that. You can buy it by itself. It retails for $99. You can actually buy it on sale a lot of times for $69. And it's as you'll see, I think it's a pretty good program. It has a number of more simplified ways of doing things as compared to the most sophisticated programs. And for some reason, I need to do that to get to it. As far as editing features, the editing features they have that the program offers, did you see that pop up?
Yes.
Okay. Are a lot like some of the editing features that you see in the simplified mode of a lot of programs. For example, you can do things like gamma correction. And what that does is show some screens and you click on them to adjust as opposed to a slider. Temperature and tint, volume controls, balanced audio functions. It has some shake reduction built into it and some other features. I should go back and start to do a quick overall of what we're looking at. To begin with, you would bring in the different files that you want to be working on in your project. A project might be to prepare a video to watch on TV or for social media. And there are various ways to bring files in, whether they be audio, video, or stills. And so you would add media, and then you have this screen that pops down that once you bring everything in, they're handy to get to. This smaller screen is called an asset screen, and it's the assets that you take to build your project. And to bring the assets into the project, you just click and drag them down on this timeline. And the timeline is everything that goes through at the bottom. And I'll talk about that in just a second. Yeah. So I'm going to minimize that just to provide more space. This timeline, I'm going to expand it to show you the capability of this program. You can add anything from several, I think 3 different video tracks. And a track is everything from left to right here. This axis is actually a time axis, and the times are shown up here on top, and the last 2 numbers are the number of each frame. So you can very precisely adjust what you're doing video wise and audio wise as well. So you very first video you bring in comes in on video 1. You click and drag down to that. Audio 1 is the audio that's associated with that video. It's what you would record in your camera. You have another track that you can add voiceover, where you can narrate, for example. And then finally, you have a music track that you could bring in. And I think there might even be another one of that. And so what you do is just stack up what you want. In this particular case, I had a black screen. It was a fade in. And these are 3 clips I brought into this. The yellow line that goes through has to do with opacity, that helps with fading when you fade in and out a video. The yellow line in the audio track is a volume that you can fade in and out. And if you want to edit one of these clips, and you have to highlight it like I just did, and then go back to where I was, since I got things backwards to start with. Here's what I showed you before that has the various things that you can adjust. Lighting, for example, is brightness, contrast, and exposure. You can click on either one of those and adjust it. Under that, you have a number of tools you can work with. Pan and zoom, like Jerry mentioned, is the Ken Burns effect. You could do this either with video or with stills. And it's really a fun thing to do because you can start out at one point in the screen and pan to another point and zoom in, much like Bill described. You have a freeze frame where you can actually capture a frame and make a still out of it, and a whole bunch of other things. As far as trimming, you normally take a video, you want to get rid of the end effects and make it the length you want for each clip, and a whole number, get motion trackings, and you can do menus. Close. For some reason, we're not closing here. Then in editing, this gives you a number of effects, motion effects, opacity, that changes the yellow line as far as whether you're 100% to see the video. You have the option for all kinds of adjustments, mixing things, blurring, sharpening, and so on. This next button does transitions. It gives you a whole bunch of options of different kinds of transitions. Everything from fading, switching in and out, sliding, turning upside down. And this comes with the program. And wipe, barn doors. You can make titles, all kinds of different titles. You can make motion titles. You can make fixed titles. One of the interesting things, it comes with a number of audio clips that are free to be used, and you can use these on social media as well. And this last one is just if you want graphics, animations, and so on. So I'm going to drop this since I've already showed you this. Again, these are 3 video clips I took before Christmas on a particularly windy day out at Point Betsy. I have transitions built in as indicated by these swooping down arrows. I've got a fade in on over this black screen and fade out both the audio and the video here. One thing that's interesting is right now, I'm going to just play it for you for just a second. It's only 1 minute long, but I'm going to start out with both audio tracks, that one that was captured by the camera and the other was some music I put behind it. And I'll just say a couple words about this. I didn't do it in this video, but there's a feature called ducking. And what ducking means is, for example, you have the audio captured by the camera, but you want to say something about it, a voiceover. So it allows you to reduce the volume of what your background noise so that you can talk and you can hear what people are saying. This is something that I wish Channel 7 and 4 learned how to do, because normally when they're talking over a video, you can't hear what they're saying. This is another important feature of all video, and this is a playhead that goes over the timeline. And as you're building your video, you can actually pull it across and see what's going on in the monitor frame up above. So one way, the last thing I'm going to say before I play this is when you have all these different tracks and you want to put them together into your end product, like a movie, you have to what they call render it. And what that does is combine everything and winds up in a big file that eventually, when you decide to export it, which you would go up here to export and share. Everything is all combined into one file. And this particular piece of software offers all kinds of options for exporting videos. For one, I found I would, rather than just export something as an MP4, which is a pretty typical export, there's one, if you want to use it on television, there's an MP4 with a type, a specific type, H.264, and this allows it to be played on televisions. That was a little trick that I didn't learn easily. I had recorded a number of movies and they didn't play on television, but they played perfectly on the computer. And I realized that you had to use a specific MP4 H.264 version of it to play it on a television. So anyway, even though this program has some pretty simplified editing features as far as editing the clips, you can always edit it in any other piece of software like Photoshop, Elements, and so on, and bring it into this program already edited. So in summary, on the clip editing features, it does have some simplified ones, but you can always bring in ones you've edited in a more sophisticated one. So bear with me. I'm going to play this little simple clip that I recorded some time ago, which was before Christmas, and let you see the quality of what comes out. And let's. Okay. Let me minimize that. Okay, what do you see?
Get your desktop.
Okay, let me, you see that? Can you
No.
see it?
No,
You don't see anything?
The editing screen only.
Okay, hold on. Let me go back here and see if I can figure out what's happening.
I think you have to exit out of share screen first to change program.
Okay. Yeah, something's happened here. Here we go. Let me minimize this. Should be in Zoom. Oh, new share. Maybe that would work. Ah, yes. Thanks, Terry. Okay. Did that come through?
Same
No.
screen,
No,
nothing changed.
Nothing changed? Let me try. I try to make this easy and I can see it's not working. New share. There we go. Let's try this.
There you
Yep.
go.
Okay, good. Let's see. Okay, moving on to Lightroom. This is a screen capture I made of the video editing capabilities of Lightroom, or at least the ones that are obvious. Going back to Premiere Elements that I just described, and it showed a pretty sophisticated timeline with lots of attributes where you could add video and audio to it. Where my pointer is the timeline, corresponding timeline in Lightroom. And as you can see, it's pretty rudimentary at best. It will only let you do a couple of things. It'll let you trim your video clips, and it will also let you capture a frame if you want to take a still out of it. And you have to do this in not in the develop module, but in the library module, interestingly enough. If you want to take a clip into the develop module, you'll get a splash screen that says you can't do this. You can't edit video in the develop module at all. However, there's a little trick that that's known, but it's not really. You have to know how to do it, and if you just follow what Adobe shows you, it won't get you here. The trick is you look at your video clip and you capture a frame, one single frame from your video clip. And then you take that frame into the develop module and you synchronize that with your video back in the library module. And you can edit that one single frame while you're in the develop module. And that makes the corresponding change back to your video. So regardless of which method you want to use, the one that's advertised and the one that they describe, or the one I just described where it's a workaround to be able to use Lightroom's regular editing software or editing functions. In either case, if you want to add audio or if you want to add music, you have to take your video clip into the slideshow module and add them there. And you can't really see too much about what you're doing because the slideshow module is aimed at slideshows more than video. So to make a long story short, while Lightroom is a very good and I would say an excellent editor for stills, I can't really say much about its video capabilities. It's very, very rudimentary at best, and it only allows you to do very simplified things in the library module, or if you take it over to the develop, it's very circuitous at best. Again, some of the things it requires a subscription, either in the photography or Creative Cloud packages, and it's primarily designed to edit stills. So in summary, I can't really recommend, unless you really want to just try out what it has and get a feel for it. I couldn't recommend it for any serious video editing. So I'm going to move on now to Photoshop. Photoshop has numerous video editing and movie making features. By the way, let me ask, did this switch to, are you seeing a picture of Point Betsy?
Yes.
Good,
Yes.
good, that worked. It has numerous features for video editing and movie making. Again, it's not a dedicated program. I think, as we all know, Photoshop's capable of almost anything. And it has some really good video editing features. The thing about it, it requires reasonably good video editing skills to start with. And if you, this discussion group, I think, pointed out a lot of the pitfalls and a lot of the good skills that we would need to do to edit video. And it requires a knowledge of Photoshop. As you can see here, it has at the bottom a timeline with almost all the features that I showed in the very first Elements Pro, Premiere Elements. And it's got, you'll recognize the panels over on the right side, which are Photoshop's panels that are used for editing stills. As a matter of fact, as soon as both this applies in Lightroom and also in Photoshop, when you bring a video clip into it, it automatically goes to the video editing screen. In the case of Photoshop, it takes each clip and puts it on its own layers. So you have a lot of flexibility in working on that particular clip. It does require subscription like you normally would, either to the photography or the Creative Cloud packages. The timeline offers, I'll go over here and show on the left, the capability for many tracks of video and audio, like I showed in the first one in Premiere Elements. The movie making capabilities include all kinds of things, and to use some terms for video trimming, transitions, fade-ins and outs, titles, texts, scrolling credits, pans and zooms. It's very, very full-featured. It's recommended by Adobe and also myself that it's a great program for intermediate levels, requiring a bit of knowledge of video editing and also Photoshop. So intermediate levels and above. It might be a tough way to get started. The very first Premiere Elements that I described is a much easier way to get involved into video. But Photoshop has excellent capabilities. This is Premiere Pro. I did not buy this. I don't own it. I've done a lot of research on it on YouTube. I've looked at Adobe's training on this, and this is their professional level video editing program. It requires a subscription either through the Creative Cloud package, or you could buy it as a standalone program, and I think it goes for about, I think it's $21 a month if you just wanted it by itself. It accommodates they advertise files from any camera, any format, and any platform. And it works seamlessly with other Adobe Creative Cloud apps such as Photoshop, After Effects, and Audition. Just looking at the screen, you see 4 panels. You have the timeline panel, 2 panels above. There's what is analogous to the assets panel in the upper left. There are a whole series of tools and controls on either side of the timeline. There's an audio level and a whole bunch of other things in here. This is truly a professional level piece of software. And it's not a way to get started for sure. It has all the features built on Photoshop and takes them to the extreme. You can just do all incredible things that I don't even understand with this. So again, this would be for really advanced people or people for professional video editors. So I'm gonna close out of this and see if we get back. Okay. So in summary, Premiere Elements is a really good program for learning how to edit video clips and making movies. It's inexpensive and has lots of features. It's recommended for the beginner to intermediate user level. Lightroom can be used to edit video clips, either very simply in the library module or somewhat better in the workaround that I described. However, it's cumbersome at best and can only make very simple movies. And I really don't recommend it for video work. Photoshop is a serious video editor and movie maker. To take full advantage of its features requires a reasonably good video editing skills and a good knowledge of Photoshop's still image editing features. It's recommended for intermediate and above user levels. The Premiere Pro is a very serious video editor and movie maker. It's truly feature rich and it's recommended for advanced and professionals. I would summarize by saying for these and many other video editing programs, there's a wealth of information available out there. I just looked at Adobe products. They have their own training videos for each of them that you can learn more about it. And YouTube is a really good source for just about anything you want to learn how to do with any of those programs. In my own case, what I decided to do after reviewing these, like I said at the outset, I like to mainly use video for recording things that move while my camera's on a tripod. And like flowing water, like snow falling and so on. So with that and with the capabilities of Adobe's Premiere Elements, that was what I chose. It's got almost all the features of the higher end ones, albeit somewhat simplified, albeit you can do editing exclusive of that and bring the edited files in. And it has all the features that I would need. Highly recommended as a program to get started on. It's inexpensive and a great way to learn video. So that concludes my part of it, Jay.
Hey, great.
Thank you.
Cecil, Helen had a question. Can you edit a video and have the original like you do stills? Can you revert as well? And I think she asked that question when you were talking about elements.
Oh yeah, I mean, when you there's several things you could do. You're not affecting your files your original file from your camera, if I understand the question. You can edit it and you would save it as a complete video file. So you have those two. And you can save it as you go along and modify it later too. It offers all the flexibility you can imagine. Helen, was that the gist
Yeah,
of your question? And most of the
It was for Lightroom that I was asking that on.
the one thing about almost all the programs I mentioned, they accommodate almost any kind of file from a camera or a video recorder, and can export the files in almost any format you can imagine, especially as you go up in the higher ends. They're very flexible.
Okay, well, we should go on to Terry. You ready, Terry?
Yep,
Okay, take it away.
okay. A lot of what have to say is kind of duplication, so I'll try not to, I'll shortchange some things so that I don't spend a lot of time saying the same things. I guess one of the primary things that I was going to show is this is the gimbal that I use. It's a DJI Osmo 4. This is how it folds up, and then this comes out, and the phone has a clip on it that is a magnetic clip, and it will just clip up. Oops, got to get it lined up right. Then when you activate the as you move around, it helps to just even out and stabilize the phone. It is really a lot of fun to use, and it's easy to move around and do different things. But the one thing that I have found is that if you go too far with it, it doesn't like that. But there are buttons on the front that allow you to move the camera around so it goes exactly where you want it to go. But typically, if you're just walking along or moving in or out or something like that, it just helps to stabilize things and move them around. It's amazing though, on your iPhone, there is already stabilization built into it, but this helps even beyond that. And I also use these Moment lenses that attach to a case. The only problem I have with that is that to use the magnetic clip that Osmo uses, I can't use their case. And the lens that I use with a case has a very nice, simple way of clipping on, so you can use these different lenses. This one happens to be what they refer to as a moderate telephoto. And I also have a wide angle, and then this one is actually a fisheye that I can attach to this thing that really gives you an amazing amount of capability. But to kind of move things along, I'm just going to, before I do that, I should mention that on this stand, the legs on this thing fold out, so it creates a tripod so you can set this thing down. And there's some pre-programmed things that you can use with the Osmo app that are nice. And also these legs on the bottom unscrew, and I have a extension pole that has a screw on one end that you can actually screw that to the bottom of this so that you can hold the camera out farther away from you, which is a nice feature, but.
Jerry, how is that thing powered? Is that a rechargeable battery?
Yeah, it has a separate battery in it. And on the side, there's a plug that you plug in to recharge it. So it has its own power supply. And the one advantage of this Osmo 4 is it has a much stronger motors in the gimbal itself. And because the difference between the Osmo 3 and the 4 is the stronger motors are here. And that comes into play, especially when you start using some of these extra lenses on the iPhone because they have added weight, which can cause problems with the earlier model of Osmo.
There are also zoom buttons.
Yes, on the side, there's a zoom button. I've had a problem with that, partly because it operates so fast, but if you go into the menu system, you can actually slow down the speed of the activation of that, which helps. It took me a while to realize that you could do that, but that helps with the button. But the way the things are organized on this thing, there's a on-off button, and then there's a separate button for taking a photo or starting a video. And then this other button is one that controls the angle of the thing. So it adds a lot of capability, but it really isn't absolutely necessary to have and or use, because you can do a lot of this by hand. I mean, it's amazing the capability that the iPhone has now in terms of stabilization. And so you can use your iPhone, but the main thing in terms of taking video is using both hands to hold it to help give some more stability. And then as you're videoing and moving around, the idea is they use what they call a duck walk, where you keep your knees bent. So as you're walking, you're kind of softening the effect of moving with the camera, which is just, you know, part of a technique of using a phone or even any camera in video, because that is one of the complicating factors. What I would like to do is to, I'm going to share my screen and go into, actually going to use Bridge. And I've got a lot of screenshots of some different things that I'd like to show to help. Are you seeing it?
Yes.
Yes.
The first thing here I've got is just a list of some YouTube videos that are good reference for some of the things that we've been talking about. The one is just in terms of smartphone videography, some recommendations on things to know. The second one is a Filmic Pro, which is another program I'm going to show a bit about using that as a program on the iPhone and with the Osmo. And then the next thing is a reference of DaVinci Resolve, which is the program I'm going to show. And then the last one is a video about a B-roll challenge that Peter McKinnon has put up. He's a fascinating guy that I've watched for quite a while, who does a lot of video blogging. And then is I think have been mentioned before, there are so many terms that the video people use that are a little different than what we're used to as straight photographers. And B-roll is one of the terms that is used for certain types of shots, and they're dollying shots and the dissolve and fade in, fade out, fade to black, all sorts of terms. Anyway, I've made a copy of that, and both of these sheets I'll give to Jay, and maybe he can put them up online so that you can access them if you want to. This is just a screenshot of my phone. And as you can see in this corner over here, these are the video programs that I use on the camera. That's the standard iPhone. The iPhone that I'm using is a XR, the 10R. And then using with the Moment lenses that I have, they have their own program as well that has some capabilities. And then using the Osmo gimbal, they have their own app called DJI Mimo, and that you can get online. And then the other program is another app called Filmic Pro, which is a program you can download to control video on an iPhone. Looking at your iPhone camera, if you go back through the settings of the camera, if you go back a ways and look for camera, you'll find that there are some things that you can set that will accommodate particular features of your camera. And it's worth taking a look at those because it does help with some things. I don't actually use this because I use these other apps that I'll talk about in a bit. And if you just go into YouTube, there are all sorts of videos that you can find that describe how to use an iPhone for video. And there are also programs that talk about these other devices that I'm going to talk about as well. This is the app. This is the screenshot of the App Store, and what you see when you look for the DJI Mimo. This is a paid I'm sorry. This one is a free app that you can get to use with the Osmo 3, the gimbal, and it has a lot of built-in capabilities. This is just a part of the manual that you can get that you get as part of the download. And the thing that I wanted to show in particular is this, which shows all the various types of things you can do with the Osmo. It has hyperlapse, time-lapse, dynamic zoom, slow motion, video, photos, and pano. And the cool thing on pano is when you set your phone to take panos, it gives you the options of automatically doing a 3x3, where it'll take 3 shots in a row, and then drop down, take another 3 shots, then drop down, take another 3 shots, and it puts them all together for you in one image. It'll also, as a separate part of the app, do as you set the camera down on the tripod, and you set this for the 240 degree angle, it'll automatically take a 240 degree pano for you. And then this one is kind of funky. It's called a Clone Me pano, where it takes 3 shots. But what it does is you have the Osmo set on a table or something with the tripod, and you click on this button, then run out in front of the camera, and it'll click down, and then it'll take one shot, and then it'll move over, wait for you to move over, take another shot, then do the same thing. So it takes 3 shots, but you can be in each of those 3 shots, which is kind of a funky kind of panel, but it's pretty neat. So anyway, those are the basic kinds of automatic things that it'll do. This is what the screen looks like when you're using the thing in the photographic mode. And these are some of the options that you have in terms of setting the frame aspect ratio, whether it's automatic white balance, whether it shows a grid like you're showing here. This is the things that you can control on the gimbal itself, whether you want it to allow the follow me. It's set up so that you can actually, if you have somebody in front of the camera, you can point to them and it'll lock on them, and then wherever they go, the gimbal will rotate the camera to keep them in track. And here's the option on controlling the amount of speed of that zoom button. So there are a variety of different controls that you have. And these are some of the different modes, whether it's in automatic or a self-timer, or these are the panel modes that you can click on. This is the 3x3, and this is the graphic of what it's going to do in terms of taking those 9 shots. I forgot what this one is. Anyway, this is where you can control what kind of resolution the thing is taking, as well as what frame rate the camera is going to take the shots in. Now, this is the other app that I use called Filmic Pro, and it's an app that is set up to do strictly video, and it can be used with any iPhone or smartphone device, and it has all kinds of different capability. And these are some of the setups that you can control in terms of resolution and frame rate. These are the 2 main ones that you're likely to be changing. Audio is, well, most of these are pretty straightforward, and I wanted to show this, which is, this is where you can control what aspect ratio it's actually taking, and you have all these different options in terms of what kind of aspect ratio you get. And then down here, you can control the, whether it's a 1080p or whether it's a 4K, and then also what the film quality is. Typically, what I've been using is this filmic quality, and then the 1080p, because when you use 1080p, it does give you all of these different things. If you go to the 4K, it's going to limit somewhat how many options you have in this area. And then this is the other part of it where you can control the amount of frame rate. And again, when you're using the 1080p, it gives you the maximum amount of frame rate. So if you take the frame rate all the way up to 240, what you're going to do is, it says down here, is you're shooting it at 240 frames per second, but the playback is set up to play back at 24. So you're getting slow motion. And actually all of these are slow motion in terms of what playback is, but this really gives you an amazing amount options as far as how kind of slow motion you get. But again, the thing about this is there are a lot of people that are doing this, and YouTube has a lot of videos talking about using an iPhone with Filmic Pro, and what some of the options are. And here's one using the Filmic Pro with the Osmo gimbal. So there are a lot of things out there that you can find that will go through and talk about these things. And then this is the program that I use for processing my video. And this is the equivalent of using the Adobe Pro product that Cecil talked about. But the amazing thing is this program is free. It comes from Blackmagic Design. It has all the pro capabilities that you can ask for. I mean, it's just unbelievable. This is a screenshot of the first page, and there are 7 pages. This is the media page, and these are all clips that I've inserted in this video. The next page is a quick edit page where this is your timeline and these are the clips that are being used. This is your clip library, and then these are your transition library options. These are all various tools that you have. The 2 basic tools you have are the called the blade, which is a way to split a clip into pieces if you need it. And then the red arrow there is the general tool for just moving around. The 2 windows up here, this window is actually the window of the clip that you're highlighting. And then this window is the window showing the whole timeline. And these are your audio images. This page is called Fusion, and it's a very complicated thing. But in its simple form, it's a graphic depiction of setting up comparable to an action in Photoshop, where you start building using your nodes a whole bunch of activities that you want to happen to a given clip. And this is an example of what this diagram would look like for somebody that had set up a clip doing a very automated text graphic on the screen. The amazing thing about this is you can go through all this and set all this stuff up so it's an automated task, but then you can take and highlight just a segment of this and say, turn this into a template. So now you got a template that does all of this automatically for you. It's quite amazing. And this is the one of the pages that you will use a lot, which has to do with color. And in your clips, you can use these various tools to adjust color. It's got a histogram, which you can manipulate the histogram curve to increase contrast or reduce it or whatever. This is showing the amount of color of different things in here, and you can control that if it starts getting out of whack. Down here, specific tools for your contrast and all the various tools that you need to make specific things. This is just a page for dealing with audio, and there are all kinds of ways of manipulating the audio. This is the page of, they call it the deliver page, and this is the page where you output the thing. After you've got your movie all set the way you want it, you click over here and what it does is then goes through and renders the thing. So it's rendered in whatever format you want. And it has a dialogue up here, which allows you to click on a number of different options. If you want to put this video up on YouTube, it has a YouTube button here that automatically sets everything up just the way YouTube wants it, so that you can output directly to whatever that format is and then ship it off to YouTube or Vimeo, or you can set up custom ones, or here's one like Cecil was talking about for television. So all that stuff is automated. And this program is used by a lot of professionals. A lot of professionals are giving up on Adobe and the cost, and because this is a free program. Part of the reason this is free is Blackmagic Design actually is a manufacturer of high-end video equipment. That's where they're really making their money. But the other thing is they also sell, if you go to the, these again are a screenshot of YouTube videos that there are a lot of videos that are set up for beginners. A lot of them will tell you, in 15, 20 minutes, they'll show you all the basics that you need to know. And, once you understand the very basics, you don't need to know about all the bells and whistles, because there's so many things that you can do with this. It's unbelievable. But, it's worth taking the time to learn this, because it's a program that once you learn it, I mean, you can continue to learn with this thing forever. But this is the actual Blackmagic website. This is where you would go to get the free download. This is the reference manual that comes with the download, and it has unbelievable amount of content. This is page, I forget what the initial part of it on the introductory of contents. And this is showing all the pages. It's got 3,585 pages on the of material in this thing. So it's, it's mind-boggling. But the whole point is you don't need to be overwhelmed by all this, because it really operates the same as iMovie and Premiere Elements. There's a lot of confusing stuff, but the thing that is fantastic is the number of YouTube videos that are out there that will give you a lot of the background, answer a lot of your questions, get you going. And if an old geezer like me can learn this thing, anybody can do it. And it's really worth looking at. I could go into the program. I see we're actually after 11 o'clock already, so I probably should stop at this point. But are there any questions that I can answer? Or?
So how long do you think it took you to start being able to do anything with it? Was it days or hours, or is it pretty simple to get started?
It took a while, but to be honest, a lot of what they're using is very similar to Photoshop.
Hmm.
I mean, Photoshop, most of us only use 10% of Photoshop.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. This program is just unbelievable capability, and there are Hollywood producers that are using this. They've given up on Adobe and use this because it's got so much capability, and and it's free. I mean, what can I say?
It looks very similar to Premiere Pro, except for the price.
It's idea. I mean, it's almost identical. I mean,
Yeah.
the terminology is probably part of the issue that you have. But once you understand a lot of this stuff, and I think, you know, there's a lot to learn about using video because it's really all clip based. And, you know, storyboarding is one of the things that I think is something we don't even think about when we're doing our regular photography, because a lot of times when you may have an idea for a shot, that's not that big a deal. But when you start thinking about a video, you have to think about how you're talking about a beginning and a middle and an end, and what's the story, what's the objective, and how you build these clips to accommodate that. And there are so many different ways. That's, to me, that's even the bigger learning curve than learning the software. The software is a big part of it, but I think that, you know, the future really is video. I'm not saying that still cameras are not going to be around, but I think that an awful lot of us, and that's where it's going to be. And they continue to make it simpler, and by God, it's just unbelievable what these stupid little phones can do. And there are a lot of people that have made professional videos that are being used for advertising, using nothing but a phone and a gimbal and this DaVinci Resolve.
Jerry, can you might have said it and I missed it. Can you insert a still photo in the middle of that video?
Absolutely.
Sure.
And the thing that is amazing is you can install a still image as a video clip, and then you can go into that image and actually maneuver around. You can turn it inside out. You can, you know, you can do anything you can do in Photoshop with video, and it's just mind-boggling to me how all this works. But it is so neat to be able to go in and take like a big landscape and zoom in on just a little small part of it or something.
Ken Burns did that wonderfully. I love that effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be fun just to look at that program, just to understand or to recognize what you've seen that you thought was magic, you know, on commercials or movies or things, and see how they actually did that behind the scenes. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, there are a number of people on YouTube that are doing video blogs.
Yeah.
It's fun to look at them because it's amazing what some of these guys are doing. And the Peter McKinnon, the one link that I had on that one sheet, he has a B-roll challenge that he put out to other people that are on YouTube. And it's kind of neat because he has this compilation. And the amazing thing was when the people in all this stuff, a lot of them were all dealing with making coffee. And it's just fascinating to see how many different approaches people took to just the simple process of making coffee and how they videographed it. I mean, it's just very inspiring to me, and I've had a lot of fun watching and seeing it.
Right. Well, thanks. That was definitely a trip into the deep end, I would say, but it does look accessible too. So it's great. All right. Well, we have exceeded our time. I've been here sweating about what Zoom is going to do when I go past the time. It did nothing. So I guess that's because we have the pro version. So it's a good thing to know. But yeah, we are past our time. So let me thank all the speakers, and hopefully we've all learned something. I certainly have. I'm tempted to go buy a gimbal, even though I don't do any video, but I can see some other purposes for it, so it would be fun to try. So,
Well, Jay, the gimbal works just fine for the still images as well.
yeah. Well, actually, I should admit I have one, right? But this is an older one, and there are lots of things that yours does that this one doesn't do. So even though I barely used it, it's already obsolete. It's 3 or 4 years old, which is a lifetime in technology, of course.
But if you get the Filmic Pro app for your video, for your phone, that will add some of this capability.
Yeah, I should do. And I assume the Filmic Pro is $5 or $10 like everything else for the iPhone, right?
I think it cost, I think it was $14 or $15 or something.
Thanks. Yeah, expensive.
But it
right?
has some.
Hey, Jay,
Yeah,
one of the, yeah, one of the things you have to remember when you order something, by the time it arrives, it's outdated already.
yeah, yeah. I've noticed that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, I guess we better wrap up and let people get on with their lives. I'm sure we're all busy, have places to go and all that sort of stuff. Just kidding, but. All right.
Nice to be with friends without mask.
Right, yeah. All right, and I'll figure out what to do with this recording. I can probably get Sam to put it on the website, or I can put it on my website, maybe faster. I'll send out a link to everybody. So assuming that it did record, it says it's still recording, so I trust it is. So, okay, well, thanks again, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you at the next Zoom meeting. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing it. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
I'd be going.
Bye-bye.